Well, hello there. This is Lily from Je t'aime me neither, and thank you for joining me for yet another edition of There's Only One Paris. So, our series of participatory short stories where every week a new story is written on a different location in Paris, which is also based on your suggestions of your favorite places in the city. And so, this week we go to not just a different part of town, to a different place in town, because we are going underground. We're going deep under the city into the catacombs of Paris. This is not a macabre story per se, but there is some suspense and some adventure involved. There are more than one type of catacomb in the city, and we're going to discover that through the story. So the story was suggested, the topic, the place was suggested by Susan McKee, and Susan is also helping me edit the stories to prepare them for future projects, which you will discover in due time. I'd like to also thank Jim Eric, who kindly put forward some comments about the catacombs and provided a nice photo for the story and a name of one of the characters. I'd also like to thank Pascal Vincent Marquis, who provided a few other character names. So, without any further ado, here is our story, which is called The Secrets of the Catacombs. One at a time down the steps. One at a time, shouted Madame Artois. How many steps are there? Asked Laure hesitantly. 131, replied Jeremy exuberantly. What? Exclaimed Laure, halting on step number 22. Behind them, the daylight, and the only chance of escaping their current fate, vanished with the closing of the creaking entrance door. Well, you should have been listening earlier when Madame Artois told us all of this, admonished Flora. You were too busy on your phone, needled Pascal. I wanted to check my messages one last time, grumbled Laura in self-defense. Geez, I really should have pretended to be sick this morning and gotten out of this altogether. Afraid of the dark, baby, taunted Jeremy. Does your mom still tuck you in? Added Pascal. Shut up, of course not, growled Laure as she punched the teasing boys in the arm. Shh! Les enfants, arrêtez de crier! Stop shouting! Shouted Madame Artois from the bottom. Come on, guys. Just leave her alone, ordered Flora as she motioned to her friends to follow her and the rest of the herd of 14-year-olds down the steps. Down, down, down they marched. The 131 steps would take them 20 meters below the street level and into the weakly lit tunnels of the Paris catacombs. Even though they weren't all that fond of school, the teens had to admit that it was nice to get back to real school after all those months of virtual classes. Nevertheless, after a few weeks of getting back into the swing of things and catching up with friends, they were keen to get outside the classroom walls. That said, the merits of Madame Artois' choice of such a macabre and claustrophobic place for their first field trip was a matter of debate. But there was nothing they could do about that now. Bonjour, and thank you for visiting the catacombs, started the tour guide. Once they'd reached the bottom of the steps and were gathered in a small side room. Before they descended the stairs, he'd informed them that they were the last group to go through for the day. The four friends naturally drifted to the back of the group. The Paris Catacombs are among the most famous underground sites in the world. Since opening in 1786, they have attracted millions of visitors, including the future King Charles X, Napoleon III, the Holy Roman Emperor Francis II, and even Otto von Bismarck. Otto von Bismarck? Asked Jeremy. Bismarck, the first Chancellor of Germany, dummy, huffed Flora. No wonder you failed history class. Cut him some slack. It isn't like Mr. Leclerc's history classes are very exciting, defended Pascal. You have a point, said Flora. I think he may even be older than the Catacombs. Her cheeky comment even got a giggle out of the petrified Laure. Shh, les enfants, children, quiet, hissed Madame Artois. Underneath Paris, there are over 300 kilometers of tunnel, but today we'll only visit a part of the 1.7 which are open to the public. This site actually dates back 2,000 years, when the Romans... Boo! Jeremy whispered into Laura's ear while poking her in the side. Ah! She screeched. Les enfants! Shh! Hollered Madame Artois, her anger mounting. Pay attention now. Yeah, we sure wouldn't want to be sent at attention right here and now, said Pascal under his breath. That's for sure. Imagine getting locked in down here, added Flora. Dope, enthused Jeremy. Terrifying, whimpered Laure as she scanned the room. All around them was the beige limestone upon which Paris sat. Some sections were supported by neatly carved blocks, whereas others were roughly dug out and topped with pebbly rubble. Here and there were some dusty panels featuring facts, maps, vintage photographs of this peculiar site. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the area was still used as an open stone quarry until the 1300s, when they began excavating the limestone via underground tunnels, like the ones we are currently in. You've been to the Louvre and to Notre Dame, haven't you? Yes, replied some of the keener students at the front of the group. Well, some of the stones used to build the cathedral and other medieval buildings in Paris likely came from these very tunnels, said the guide. The quarry. If this was a stone quarry, why are there a bunch of bones down here? Asked Jeremy. Don't interrupt the guide, hissed Laure. Let's move along first, and I'll answer your question at the next stop, replied the guide politely. He led the students towards a long corridor. Arrête. C'est ici l'Empire de la Mort, said Pascal, reading the words carved into the stone above the entrance. We're totally done for, croaked Laure, gripping Pascal's arm. It'll be all right, Laure, Pascal assured her. We won't be staying down here in the Empire of the Dead. We'll all get out of here alive and well at the end of the tour. Reaching the other side of the hallway, the guide stopped them in another rounded alcove. Here, the descriptive panels had been replaced with bones, row upon row of femurs and the occasional line of skulls. By the mid-1700s, the cemeteries of Paris were overflowing, explained the guide. Many of them were huge mass graves that were literally packed to capacity after century upon century of use. So the local sanitation authorities decided to close down the cemeteries in the city center and put all the bones in one common place. Back then, where we're standing was actually outside the city limits of Paris, so these empty tunnels were a convenient place to put the bones. Between 1785 and 1787, over 6 million bones were transferred here. Crews often had to work at night so Parisians wouldn't see them and cause a fuss about moving the bones from their intended final resting place. Instead of merely filling the tunnels with piles of bones, the man in charge, Héricard de Thury, decided to create a museum-like site. As you can see, he arranged the bones in original patterns. Original? I'd say downright weird, whispered Flora. Come on, Flora, I thought you were into art, teased Pascal. I am, but I'm not sure I'd qualify this as art, she replied. Follow me, I'll show you some of the most unique of these, said the guide, who turned down another tunnel with the group shuffling behind. Psst, guys, I'll show you something unique, said Jeremy. Come have a look over here. Okay, but quickly, we don't want to fall behind, pleaded Laure. The three others followed their wisecracking friend to a small nook. Look at this skull, Jeremy instructed. Don't you think it's a little different from the others? Different? How so? Look, there's a symbol carved in the top, said Jeremy. What are you talking about? Huffed Laure, noticeably eager to catch up with the class. Come closer, scaredy cat. Not wanting to completely lose face, Laure reluctantly took a few paces forward. Where? I don't see anything, she concluded. Right here, said Jeremy, poking the star-shaped symbol with his index finger. Suddenly, a section of the bones opened. It was the door to a secret passageway. Whoa, that's totally sick, said Pascal in awe. What's down there? Pondered Flora, peering past the door. Seems like there's some stairs. Well, only one way to find out, declared Jeremy as he started down the steps. I'm not sure this is such a good idea, said Laure, voice wavering. The lighting isn't great down here in the catacombs. The others won't even notice we're missing until the end of the tour, said Pascal. Come on, chicken, taunted Jeremy. We'll just have a quick peek, then go back up and join the others. I'm game, said the more daring Flora. Well, all right. Just a super fast look, said Laure, caving into the peer pressure. The four friends tiptoed down a few of the dark steps. Okay, I think this is far enough, moaned Laure. There's nothing here. Let's turn back. I think I see something down there, said Jeremy. I don't care. I'm heading back, said Laure in an increasingly panicked tone. Wait, exclaimed Pascal. A light bulb had gone off in his head. He pulled out his phone. I'll turn on my phone's flashlight so we can see better. Come on, Laura, persuaded Flora. We'll just go to the bottom and then back up. Fine, she said, giving in. Sure enough, once they reached the bottom of the short stairwell, they could make out a room to the right. They stepped inside, and Pascal shined his light slowly around the mid-sized cavern. Roughly carved out of the stone, the room was Spartan, save for a few piles of crates caked in a thick layer of dust. Hey, what's this? Asked Jeremy, picking up a crumbling leaflet that was sitting on top of the crate. Let me see, said Pascal. Le Gaulois, October 1870. Wow, marveled Flora. It's from the siege of Paris. The siege of Paris? Repeated Jeremy, confused. Don't you remember? Asked Flora. Mr. Leclerc covered it in the last term. Mr. Leclerc's online history classes were even worse than the in-person ones, commiserated Jeremy. I was asleep half the time, too, confessed Laura. Guys, the Franco-Prussian War, reproached Flora. Remember Napoleon III and Bismarck from the beginning of the tour? Yeah, sort of, said Jeremy sheepishly. Well, Napoleon III didn't want the various German kingdoms to unite as one country, so he declared war against one of these, Prussia. I think it was in the summer of 1870. Yes, in July, added Pascal, who'd obviously not been daydreaming like the other two. Right, well, Napoleon failed miserably and was captured within 2 months. Yeah, the Prussians came to attack Paris, added Pascal. Precisely, said Flora. However, the Parisians weren't going to give in that easily. They managed to hold out for 6 months while the Prussians bombarded the city. I've actually read that some people took refuge underground, said Pascal. Some people set up temporary bunkers in the cellar of their buildings. Others hid in some of the city's stone quarries, like up in the northeast of the city, and well, down here in the south. There were even people hiding in the crypt of the Pantheon. Cool, said Jeremy. Imagine sleeping next to Victor Hugo. Duh, he wasn't dead yet, corrected Laura. Details, scoffed Jeremy. This must have been one of those hideouts, declared Pascal. Yeah, said Flora. Look, there are some bowls and some kind of wash basin. Hey, and look over there, some blankets, said Jeremy. This takes confinement to a whole new level. And to think, we thought we had it bad, said Pascal. At least we had TV and Netflix to keep us entertained. They only had these crummy leaflets. Pascal raised his phone a little higher up the walls and stopped. La République, ou la mort, the Republic or death, he read out. This wasn't just any hideaway, said Flora. That's the slogan of the Commune of Paris. This was used by the communards, the leftist rebels who were defending the city. Well, and then led their own siege on the city a few months later, added Pascal. Dope, said Jeremy. Okay, you guys might think this is dope, cool and all, but this place gives me the creeps, stated Lar. I'd rather be up there with all those bones. You can stay here and get in trouble. I'm going back up. Without waiting for a reply from the others, Laura turned and made for the staircase. As she placed her foot on the first step, the secret door slammed shut. Oh, great, wailed Laura. Now look what's happened. We probably just need to push it and it'll open, suggested Flora, trying to calm down her fearful friend. I'll go and check, offered Pascal as he bounded up the stairs with his phone. He gave the door a push, then a bigger one. Oh, geez, guys, the door won't budge. See? We're stuck down here forever, howled Lore. We're gonna die. Oh, come on, Lore, stop being so melodramatic, criticized Jeremy. Hey, cut her some slack. She's been through a lot this year, hissed Flora. Remember her grandpa, the bookseller, who died at the hospital from, well, you know what. Okay, fine. But still, I don't think we're gonna die, said Jeremy. Well, we just might if we don't put our heads together and find a solution, replied Flora. There's gotta be another way out, said Pascal. Besides, if we're not there at the end of the tour, Madame Artois will send someone to search for us. Yes, but can you imagine how much trouble we're gonna get into? Whimpered Lore. Which is exactly why we need to find our own way back to the group, insisted Jeremy. Come on, we have nothing to lose, said Pascal. There are two directions we could go in. To the left or to the right, said Jeremy. Didn't the guides say there were 300 kilometers of tunnels? Laura commented helplessly. How are we ever going to figure out which way to go? Didn't Madame Artois say we'd be finishing near the school? Remembered Flora. Yeah, so near Montparnasse. How does that help us? Asked Jeremy doubtfully. Well, if that's the case, then we know which direction to go in, rationalized Flora. Okay, Sherlock, but how do we know which direction that is from where we are here? Well, the Catacombs entrance is in Place d'Enfer Rochereau, and Montparnasse is west, so we just need to figure out which direction that is. I know, declared Pascal, proudly waving his phone. Last year in Scouts, we learned that most cell phones have a compass on them. Bravo, Dr. Watson. However, your magic compass isn't going to work down here since we're 20 meters below the street, said Jeremy. Lore broke out in sobs. It's going to be okay, Lore, consoled Pascal, putting his arm around her shoulder. In doing so, his hand hit something metal attached to the wall. Hey, wait a sec. What's that? He said, flipping his phone light towards the wall. Look, some metal bars. They seem to be some sort of steps, said Flora. Pascal shined his light up the wall. It's some sort of vertical passageway, observed Pascal. It doesn't seem to have an exit at the top, but I bet if I climb as far as I can, the compass would work. If you're willing to try, I can use my phone light to help guide you up, offered Flora. Great! Jeremy, give me a boost, said Pascal. Why am I always the one to get walked all over? He complained. Come on, lean over, Jeremy, ordered Laure, getting back involved. He obliged, and Pascal agilely climbed onto his back so he could jump up onto the first of the bar ladder. Flora stepped back to shine the light as he climbed higher and higher. This is as far as I can get, called down Pascal, one hand gripping the bar. He pulled out his phone and opened the compass app. Does it work? Asked Laure anxiously. Give it a sec, said Pascal. Bingo! Yes! That way is west, he said, pointing to the left before scrambling back down and hopping to the ground triumphantly. Wait, said Flora. Before we leave here, let's take those leaflets and scatter them along the way in case we need to backtrack. Good idea, agreed Laure. The two girls grabbed a dusty stack each. Let's go, said Jeremy, or else we really will be in detention for the rest of the year, and it's only September. The four friends zoomed down the tunnel, with the girls dropping a leaflet every few meters. Soon they came to a fork in the tunnel. Oh man, which way now? Blubbered Laure, her panic resurfacing. Pascal flashed his light over the walls. Hey, look, said Flora. She read out loud the words drawn on the wall in charcoal. Montparnasse! That's right, said Pascal. I'd heard that there were indications down here, like road signs. Some of them are more recent, added by those people who come down here to explore, or even throw parties. Straight fire, man. I want to go to one, said Jeremy. Those fans of the Catacombs are called cataphiles, said Flora. I'm never going to accept an invitation to one of their parties, yelped Laure. Well, it isn't quite time to celebrate yet. We gotta get out of here first, said Pascal. The gang raced down the tunnel on the left. After a few hundred meters, they spotted something in the middle. Hey, what's that? Asked Laure. Looks like some wine bottles, guessed Pascal. Maybe they are left from those partying cataphiles, suggested Jeremy. Cataphile, corrected Flora. Jeremy picked up one of the bottles and dusted off the label. 1940. Was that a good vintage? People must have been hiding out here during the occupation as well, said Pascal. I hope they made it out. Alive, said Flora, wincing. I hope we make it out of here alive, squealed Laure. Let's get a move on. Jeremy dropped the bottle and the pack hurried on down the tunnel, picking up their pace. Hey, wait, said Jeremy. Stop. The three others whipped around and started back to where Jeremy was standing, looking up to the left. Stairs, shouted Jeremy. Oh my God, Jeremy, you're our hero, cried Laure, hugging him. So I'm the good guy all of a sudden, he joked. Let's not get too excited just yet, said Flora. We'd better hope there's a door at the top. They crept up the stairs. Sure enough, when they reached the top, there seemed to be some kind of handle-less door. Wait, seethed Flora, just as Pascal was about to give it a heave with his shoulder. What is it? Asked Pascal. Shh, voices, she said in a hushed tone. The four friends went as silent as the sleeping souls in the catacombs. We have one more room before the end of the tour, said the muffled voice of the tour guide. It's our class, whispered Laure gleefully. We're saved! We're saved from the empire of the dead. Let's wait a minute until they've gone past so they don't see us, suggested Pascal. But if the door doesn't budge, we can yell our heads off and then they'll still hear us. Well, hopefully. Okay, sounds like a plan, the others agreed. When they could no longer hear the guide, nor their classmates' footsteps, Pascal gave the door a big shove. It's moving a little, but it seems to be stuck, he said with a sigh. Let's all apply some strength to it. Maybe the combined effort will do the trick, proposed Flora. The four friends fell into a line in front of the door, like brave communards defending the city from the Prussians. 1, 2, 3, commanded Pascal. They pushed with all their might, and the door swung open with a giant whoosh. The four friends stumbled into a bone-lined alcove, similar to the one where their subterranean adventure had begun. We did it, cheered Laure, hugging Pascal. Shh, we have to keep it down, said Flora. The friends hushed. They slinked to the end of the tunnel and peered their heads around the corner. The coast looks clear, said Flora. They must be in that room to the right, said Pascal. Careful not to make a noise, they crept along the tunnel. As they approached the end, the lights suddenly went out. Shrieks echoed from up ahead. Hurry, now's our chance, exclaimed Flora. The four of them slid into the darkened room just as the guide turned back on the lights. See, said the guide, that's why you should never sneak into any of the parts of the catacombs that are off limits. You just might not be able to find your way back out. Exactly, concurred Madame Artois, who started clapping with the students following suit. Merci beaucoup. What a fascinating tour. The guide smiled and went to the far end of the room where there was a gate, beyond which was a set of stairs leading up to the street. Madame Artois stood at the base, checking that all of her students filed past one by one. Oh my God, freedom, gasped Laure as they neared the steps. Hey, wait a sec, ordered Madame Artois, stopping the foursome. What do you have in your hands? Laure and Flora froze. They were still clutching some of the leaflets they'd picked up in the secret hideout. One of these. Oh, these? Said Flora, feigning innocence. There's some brochures we picked up at the beginning of the tour, at the entrance. For the EGC, the Speleology Society. Yeah, the Speleology Society. Yes, the tour was so fascinating. We can't wait to become members and discover more underground places, added Pascal. Ones we're allowed to visit, of course. Right, guys? Said Flora, turning frantically and wide-eyed to Jeremy and Laure. You bet, chimed in Jeremy. Yes, I can't wait, forced Laure much less enthusiastically. Madame Artois gave them a puzzled look, but let them go past. Up to freedom they went, original souvenir in hand of their adventures in the catacomb of the catacombs. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this week's story, so stay tuned to next week's story coming out again on Sunday, where we have our own freedom here in Paris. where the lockdown has lifted and we will be allowed to venture outside our neighborhoods. So I'll be heading down to the Seine, and that is where the next story will take place. So in the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and stay waiting for the next There's Only One Paris.